Hello, peace and blessings, love and light, kings and queens. Welcome to Queen Up. I am Lady Nicole, and we are thrilled that you have taken the time to join us today. Before we get started, I have to introduce my royal representatives. First, we have Kim B.
Hi.
Dr. J.
Hello.
Stacy. And Harmony.
Hola.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us. How are you?
Bless.
How's everybody? Good, good. So let's get right into it. So we know that 2020 is an election year.
Yes.
It is a very important election.
Yes, so it is.
Everyone to voice their vote. And there's been, some celebrities who are saying we shouldn't vote, hold your vote hostage, because I don't like either alternative, candidate. In my opinion, that is the wrong way to go. We have to vote. It is important for us to be involved in politics and our community, in our nation. And holding your vote isn't going to change who the candidates are.
No, it's not.
It's not. We're still going to be working with the same two candidates. So you have to.
I just want to disagree. It's not just two candidates. As a loyal libertarian and independent, there are multiple options on the table. I'm sorry.
You are absolutely right, Stacy. There are multiple options. For this election, for the presidential election, more than likely, we will be picking between two candidates. However, anything's possible. Anything can change at the last minute. But you are absolutely right. There are going to be other people on the ticket.
Yes.
That being said, someone not voting is not going to change who's on the ticket. There's your options. That's just what it is. For me, being an African American, a Black woman, and knowing the history of what my ancestors had to go through just so I can have the opportunity to vote. Many were beaten and killed for me to have the opportunity to voice my opinion at the polls. And I don't understand how any person of color can stay home on election day and not vote.
I agree with you, Nicole. So first of all, let us start off by saying that November the 3rd, everyone needs to go and vote. Does not matter what your color or gender is. Everyone needs to vote.
That's right.
As of today, we have 100 days left. 13 hours, 5 minutes, and 4 seconds. Let's get moving. Amen. Because this is very important. And so we need to, number one, check that we are registered to vote. For some people who don't vote on a regular, we need to make sure that we're registered. And this election, because of what's going on in the world, you can vote by coming in person. You can vote by mail-in. It's a lot of different ways to vote. I personally, I've been a big advocate for voting since I was young. This year, I have decided that my company, Grime and Shine Cleaning Solutions, will do a community initiative, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna pick people up. I'm gonna rent chairs for people that's gonna be waiting in line. I'm gonna give out some water. So this year, it's a fight. It's on. We need to get ready, and vote 2020.
Yes, I love that.
As the saying goes, closed mouths do not get fed.
Amen, Harmony. Amen. It's a fight, and we need to get serious about who we are electing.
That's right.
And just like Stacy said, it might not be the two people that everybody know. We might need to, really look at the other options that we have. So I'm glad, Stacy, that you're able to bring that to our attention and make us all aware that it's just not two people, it's multiple people.
That's right.
One thing I'll say quickly, though, is that I think it's important that our vote count.
Absolutely.
And so as you're doing that and thinking about other candidates, voting for that third or fourth candidate, will that really count? And I'm not saying, the point is that we have goals, everyone does, but just keep that in mind, make it count. The only other thing I would say is that my cousins and nephews and nieces who are younger, and a lot of whom did not vote in this past election, I'm asking them to vote, make sure they're registered, but also I'm asking them to reach out to a friend, a comrade,
Bring
a colleague,
somebody with
that
you.
same age group, and get them out. Because had they voted in the past election, the outcome may have been different, and I'll just leave it at that. So make your vote count and encourage all our young people
Dr.
to get
J,
out
that
and
is
vote as well.
awesome. Yes.
That's right. So
I think that two-way, what's the right? We've been locked into this two-party election process for so long that we're almost swinging by only those. We have a lot of free thinkers in this world, and saying that we have to make sure that our vote counts. That independent ticket is really truly where the vote counts, because you're not saying I'm picking one side or the other. You're saying to yourself, I'm a free thinker and this is what I believe in, because I personally believe in being socially responsible and being fiscally responsible. So saying, if you love who you love, then love who you love. But I think that we need to be fiscally responsible at the same time. And so for me, that's why I fall more into the middle of saying, okay, I'm more of an independent, because I think that both sides of the party bring very valid pieces of the puzzle together. And the independent party really creates that bridge between the two parties. You know what I mean? Because we do understand that we need both sides together to come together, because that really is truly what America is. It's taking both sides and saying we can coexist and we can thrive and we can pursue our own happiness together. It's finding that bridge. And for me, that's why I fall in the middle.
I think that is a good point, and we want to note that every vote counts. No matter what anyone says, and especially our African American brothers and sisters, listen, if your vote didn't count, there wouldn't be so many people trying to block your vote. So that your vote counts. Every single vote counts. We're not telling you who to vote for.
Right.
What we are saying is that in November, you need to be at the polls and voice your vote.
Yes.
Right, ladies?
That's right. I used to live by the wish rule, ABT, anybody but Trump.
Oh,
That's cute, Harmony.
Again, we're not telling you who to vote for,
Right.
but voice your vote.
Amen.
So we are going to move on to our next Queen Qualities segment, colorism. Now, for those who don't know what colorism is, it's basically discrimination. It's discrimination against darker skinned people, usually within your own ethnic group.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, it is absolutely ridiculous that in
Absolutely crazy.
Still an issue. So there was a letter by Willie Lynch. Some say it's true, others say it's not true. But basically, it's a letter about how to make a slave. And one of the things that he says was to separate by color, by skin tone. You have the lights over here, the darks over here. It'll create tension and there won't be any unity. And people believe that that concept basically followed us to where we are now, that it was just passed on from generation to generation. So the slaves who were in the field, who were darker skinned, had an issue with the slaves that were in the house who were lighter skinned, and that created that tension. But I want to bring to your attention that even though the slaves were in the house and these slaves were in the field, they were all slaves. They were all doing something against their will. They did not want to be there. They were all Black, all in the same position. So bringing that concept into today, we're all Black. We're all God's children. It shouldn't matter what shade you are. Now, and I don't want to put Stacey on the spot right now, but I would like to know how that works in other ethnic groups. And I'll get to her in a minute, just want to get her thoughts, brewing. But for the Black community, I know that that is a real issue. You see it on TV, you see it in music videos, that, the lighter skinned person is treated differently and, treated better in some aspects. But I also have to say that it kind of works both ways, because me being a lighter skinned African American, I've heard people say, oh, you think you're cute because you're light. Oh, because you're light, you think this and you think that. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I also want to bring to your attention is a movie. It's an old movie by Spike Lee. It's called School Days, mm-hmm. where the concept just became real for me. Mm-hmm. That we really are in a battle, but we're all in the same fight, but we're fighting each other over some nonsense. Mm-hmm. I think it's ridiculous that we're all God's children, and for some reason, our community just can't get it together because we can't get past what shade you are. It doesn't matter if you're mocha, if you're butterscotch, caramel, dark chocolate, or butter pecan. That's with freckles. We are all God's children, and we should all love each other. I think that in the Black community, we have a lot of growing to do.
Yes.
We need to get past this. What do you think, Dr. J?
Yeah, well, I would totally agree with you, as far as us really needing to grow in that area. And I mean, the thing that's so interesting, and I'm sure Stacey will address that, the United States is not unique in that colorism exists in all countries, in India, Asia, everywhere, Africa. And so it's a sad state of affairs. But here in the United States, I think it does play out. And the thing to consider, I think, is that how we as parents and the people that our kids are exposed to, how it all plays out. In our schools, whether or not teachers favor certain children, because they're darker or fairer. But the most sad is in the family. And I can say for myself, I have the unique experience in that it did not. My dad was very, very fair, almost passing, and my mom was probably a little bit lighter than I was. And so the point is that skin color plays itself out. I think like over 300 genes are responsible for skin color. So you never know. And so for those women, in New Orleans and other places who tried to pass, it didn't always work out well. They could marry a white man, and then if they became pregnant, and for that reason they would not become pregnant, you never know. You might come out with a brown child and the secret will be out. Right. But the more important point is that something that we need to get past. My situation was that my dad was fair. My mom, as I said, was a little lighter than I was, but I was favored. My sister was very light. And I was the golden child, and so I had that experience. My mom was the teacher, taught in the school that I went to. And so, no one dared say anything or be rude to me because of my skin color. And then moving into college, same thing. And my husband turns out is fair. I have two girls or women now who are probably on the fair side. And it actually, for me, did not play out until I had children. And that was because my children were fair. People would very often say, oh, are you the mother? They looked at me like I was the maid or the nanny. And that was really, really offensive and hurtful. And so I ended up kind of questioning, gosh, what's wrong with me at a late date of 25, 26. So, but that's where I go back to the good news is that early on I had that, affirmation and positive comments and, thoughts towards me and to build me up and make sure that I understood who I was. Mm-hmm. And I think that the commentary is especially sad when you have people as adults go through that, the negativity, but don't have that reservoir of positive thoughts and affirmations early on, and especially in education where they're not affirmed. So the whole issue clearly is problematic. And so I would just encourage anybody to be aware as a parent of any bullying or situations that take place with their kids, and just really as parents be very affirming to your children, you know, and recognizing that your children don't have a choice in their color, you know, and that we be very positive and affirming to one another, recognizing that we're all made in God's image. Yeah. And that, you know, we just really need to hold on to some sense of unity and understanding who we are as the people. So, I mean, those are my thoughts.
Now, speaking of children, I don't know if you've all seen a video. It was out maybe a few months back, a young lady getting her hair braided. It was on Facebook, YouTube. I think they had her on the talk shows, and she looked at the camera and she said, "I am so ugly." She had to be about 5 years old, beautiful chocolate little girl. And my heart just hurt for her, because I thought to myself, this little princess, like, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate your shade? And that just goes to what Dr. J just touched on, that children are affected by this. So the little comments that are made to children, the sarcasm, the jokes, all of that, it affects children. And I know people say, oh, kids are resilient, they will be okay. I know for a fact that there are adults who still struggle with loving the skin that they're in because they were teased as young people. And I think that we also need to take that into consideration. Like, what are we teaching our young boys and girls about themselves, you know? Stacey, what do you think about this topic?
You know, so yes, as Dr. J had mentioned, there is the same thread that runs through the Asian community. Yeah. You know, I am considered dark for my community. You know, even from a young age, you know, my mother would say I'm darker than she is. My biological father is white, you know, Caucasian, you know, but has dark hair, dark eyes, things of that nature, but of Welsh German descent. And my mom is as fair as they get. So, you know, my mom would say, you know, where did that color come from? Because I am so dark. But it never, I never internalized that as a negative. Just because there were other things to internalize as a negative, that wasn't something that I was like, oh, is that a problem? Right. You know what I mean? So for me, it was also not giving that part control, right? Because I'm a firm believer that when someone points that at you or says that to you, you hold that as a negative idol for you. Okay, that's something that you deal with, and I don't need to internalize what you're trying to share. That's your issue, and I don't have to internalize it. Right. Luckily, my son, who is a very beautiful mix of my husband and myself, as soon as he came out, I was like, bam, he's Asian. He has my color. He tans in real time. So you can literally watch him bronze as the afternoon goes by. But yeah, we deal, that is a subject matter. You know, Asians are very dewy skin, healthy skin is the most important thing, all of those things. And I used to get so dark, and I grew up in an age before sunscreen was important. So I would get so dark that my skin would stop absorbing the sun. So I would have like white spots all over my face. And now that looks a little funny, and people are like, what's up with your skin? But the most important thing is we have to teach our children. You know, my son doesn't have vocabulary for skin color by design. We explain when he's trying to describe someone, he uses attire. Where do you associate that person as far as location? What were they wearing? Do you remember their name? things of that nature, because we are by design trying to steer away from using those types of adjectives.
Okay.
Because for me, in my humble perspective, when you point out difference, you create bias. Because no matter what you do, when you point out that it's different, because as we've said multiple times throughout the session, we are all God's children.
Right.
Okay. And that's one thing that I think that people of different races are forgetting. We are all the same. And none of us are the same shade or color of each other. Okay. It just matters, where did you grow up? What area does your heritage stem from? And that's the most important thing that we're trying to teach my son is we are all the same. So where do you associate that person from? Did you have, like, what was your connection with them? That's how we try to get him to describe it, because we don't, for me, that's how we can move past that division, is teaching our children that there is no difference.
Right.
We are not different. And when we don't point out the difference, that's when there is no division. We are a very small group, I think, but hopefully, in my mind, in my very humble opinion, in my mind, that's how you erase a line, is if you don't draw one.
Right. Well, I think that is a good point. And even if we haven't gotten to where you are right now in society about not having a line, even if we identify that, okay, well, this person is darker than me, or this person is lighter than me, this person has freckles. Even if we are at the point where we acknowledge that, we just need to really get to the point where no one is better than anyone else. You know, no one shade is better than any other shade. So whether you are dark as night or light as day, you know, we are all God's children, and you are to love yourself and love each other, especially the Black community. And thank you for sharing, Stacey. I appreciate that. The Black community, we have a lot of other things that we need to focus on. We have so many other things that we need to get together. You know, Breonna Taylor, we have some other things to worry about. Elijah McClain, we have some other things to worry about. Ahmaud Arbery, we have other things to worry about. George Floyd, and the list goes on and on and on. We need to come together as a group, as a team, as an ethnic group, and love each other regardless of our skin shade. So speaking of a lot going on, the United States, we have a lot going on. COVID-19 has just come and just dragged us from coast to coast. Unfortunately, we are still experiencing a lot of infections. People are getting sick, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are still dying from this virus. And I know that there are some working on trying to get it together, and you know, so we can come back to some sense of normalcy. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but I did hear, and I would like to know, Stacey, how is it that the government thinks that it's okay to open schools, and how safely can we do that?
You know, I think that it really depends on the school system.
Okay.
And I can speak for Maryland. Governor Hogan has empowered his council, the county entities is the best way to say it, the county entities, to make decisions for themselves. Do you feel like you can abide by the CDC requirements for opening schools? And I think that that's the most important part is, do you feel that you have the ability to abide by this? And a majority of the schools are saying no. Right. I know that San Diego and LA have said, we're not opening at all because we're not ready. You know, Howard County, we will be opening, where I am in Howard County, we will be opening virtual for the first semester. You know, and then I belong to a lot of different Facebook groups out there, micro schooling, homeschooling, virtual schooling. You know, the school that my son, I just set up the kindergarten class at their school. I just set up the Facebook page and we're getting a lot of parent involvement. This morning I posted in their, you know, asking, what is too much virtual or what is too much screen time for you? My son is 5. He's going into kindergarten. What is too much screen time? Because I've been privy to a document that shows what the initial plan and guideline is for these teachers to develop their plans. And right now it's 7 hours of screen time, 5 days a week for a 5-year-old. And I'm not okay with that.
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, 7 hours.
7 hours per day.
In one day.
With a 1 hour window in the middle for lunch. So technically it would be 6 hours of screen time, 5 days a week. So my son, you know, in particular, I can only speak of my own circumstance. You know, a kindergartner has about a 10 to 20 minute attention span at most. So saying that he's got to be engaged, sitting in a seat or staying in the same area for 6 hours is going to be maddening. And I can only, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I can only imagine what that's going to look like for a parent that is also at home trying to remote work, who may have multiple children, because I only have one. So I can only imagine the anxiety that is now starting to roll around in their bodies. So, I mean, I see a lot of options rolling around out there, co-ops, people trying to get pods running and hiring retired teachers or teachers that don't want to return to the classroom and are willing to do smaller classes. I mean, they're willing to pay these teachers several $100s an hour for support. I mean, right now, I have a group of 2 moms that our children went to the same school together. We broke quarantine with each other when it was lifted originally. We have decided that we are going to band together. Right now, what's on the table is we are banding together, the 3 of us, and we're going to do homeschool for the first semester. Because for us, the 6 hours of screen time, we feel is detrimental to their development.
That does seem like a lot.
Yeah.
Harmony, what do you think about that?
I think it's a overstimulation for kids. And I agree with Stacy on too much screen time, because even outside of school, we're trying to manage, being that the kids are home and they're always in the house. We're trying to manage screen time as it is with the television and the electronics, the game. So I think it's an overstimulation of the brain. And from a clinical perspective, it has a lasting effect on the brain when it comes to children, ADHD, and you just go down the list of things when you're talking about overstimulation and the pixels. And so I totally agree with Stacy and everything that she said. It is way too much screen time for any child to be on, but I do get it. They're trying to navigate what's the best way and the best approach. And I think getting parents' input would be the best method. I know some schools are doing hybrid, distant learning, and then partial going into schools. And so it's very difficult, because we're in these difficult times where you're trying to protect your children, and then you're trying to protect them again from, you know, the overstimulation of the screen and what it may do and the effect that it may have. So it's just scary all the way around. I have a stepson who's 13, and he is, I would say, addicted to the screen already when you're talking about games and so forth. So yeah, it's a catch-22 here.
So,
in my circumstance, my son already has an IEP. He's had an IEP since he was 3. So the challenge we face is we already have that. We already have an ADHD disposition that we're through the process of a 504. So we're already dealing with all those even before we even add the screen time to the scenario. So my main objective every day is how can I occupy his time without a TV? And that's on a daily. So I'm fighting the same fight you're fighting already as far as trying to keep them out. But if I allow him to engage, and the feedback that I've gotten from several friends that I have that are teachers is they're trying to mimic what the school day will look like, right? So they're trying to have the teachers engage with the students in the same capacity that they would if they were in the classroom. But the challenge is that when you're telling a child that you have to sit in front of a screen, well, they're not jumping, they're not playing, they're not running, they're not interacting with other children. So especially when you're dealing with kindergarten, the main basis is that social interaction and learning how to follow simple directions. Everyone come sit down, listen quietly. Those are the things that you're learning to set yourself up for first grade and on, right? So the challenge becomes, are they really going to learn what they're supposed to be learning for first grade? And so that's sort of where we took a step back and said, what are they supposed to be learning? Can we teach these things, these sight words, counting, subtraction, so on and so forth, to get them to the level where they need to be for first grade? And then we can say, okay, if in February, when they go back to school, are they on par? Yes, they're on par with where the other kids are, but they've still kept that social aspect, and that interconnection with other people is intact. Was the biggest thing that, it's not, and that all of the reports that you're reading now are like, all of the pediatricians saying they need to go to school, they need to go to school. These are the reasons why, right? And a lot has to do with that social emotional development. And that's what the virtual piece is missing, is that social development. And so we decided, okay, we're going to take a step back and homeschool for this semester. So,
I kind of feel like each parent is going to be homeschooling, because it takes first of all, it takes dedication from the parent, because you have to assure that your child is tuning in and that they're not deviating away from school. And so it's pretty much involving the parents a lot as well. So we're like homeschooling our children in addition to making sure that they're attentive, that they're doing everything that they need to do. So it takes a lot of involvement with the parent as well when you're considering homeschooling. Because you have to have the time to make sure, if you don't work remotely and you don't work from home, then you have to make sure that your child is attending school instead of playing a game or goofing off. So it's very difficult.
It sounds like a lot of extra work for parents and teachers and the kids, for everyone. But ultimately, I get it. It may not be the most comfortable scenario, but we want to make sure that our children are safe first and foremost. And of course, we also want to protect the teachers and the parents as well. Hopefully this will be a thing of the past soon, and all the kids will be back in school, and
please, Jesus,
all shall be well. Let's hope. So we're going to move on, and Dr. J is going to tell us about our Crown Connections. We always try to highlight a woman in business who is doing great things in the community. So Dr. J, if you could share that with us.
Sure. The person that I'm speaking of is Dr. Linda Way Burnson Greenwood, She is a phenomenal person. I know her personally, but she has a business where essentially it uplifts women. It gives them an opportunity in meditation, and she's actually a certified medical doctor. And so she helps guide you through meditation and the medical system and all, just really navigating through life. And she has a business, and it's a wonderful business, and it's going to be on the website.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
we're going to have all of her information attached to the end of the video, and we're going to have a beautiful photo of her so you can kind of connect the dots. Thank you so much, Dr. J, for sharing our Crown Connections. So we are actually out of time. Ladies, it is a pleasure, always a pleasure hanging out with you. On behalf of myself and on behalf of Dr. J, Stacy, Harmony, and Kim B, I am Lady Nicole, thanking you for taking the time to join us for this episode of Queen Up. We will see you next time. Be blessed.
Bye.
Bye.